Okay, today's episode is how to rebuild or build a PC. I'm mainly going to be swapping out the motherboard from a previous build only because the specs on there are very limited. I can't even put Windows 8 on there. So, what I'm going to use is a newer motherboard, a newer processor. And for those that don't know how to build a PC, just simple facts. I'm only dealing with AMD. I'm not dealing with AMD motherboards today. I'm not dealing with anything AMD. I'm only fooling with Intel. Very simple. Whatever processor you're going to get, it tells you what socket that it's going to be. This one is 1150. So this motherboard that I'm working with is also it's on here somewhere. Where's this thing at? It's on here somewhere, but when you purchase this stuff, you tell them pretty much when you're going to buy whatever processor you're going to buy. Just tell them what motherboard you're going to buy. I pretty much go online and look at everything myself anyway. But you need a motherboard, a processor, the approved RAM that's going to be for this motherboard, and this just happens to be DDR3, 4 gigs. Low budget today, so I'm going to work with some salvage hard drives that I use from some laptops. Even though this is a desktop, it can still work. But your main thing is you're going to need a desktop case. You're going to need a fan. Depending on if you have the internet or not. This is just a wireless antenna. You might not need that. And of course, you're going to need a DVD drive to install your media on, even though you can use a USB. But today I'm just going to show you the easy way. Okay, I've already removed the motherboard. I've already removed the plate. I took out the other expansions already. But if this was a brand new build, when you get the computer case, you're going to have to install the DVD player, which this is it right here. With this particular brand, all I had to do was pop one piece out and this slid inside. Some are the opposite. You slide it in from the back. 4 screws to hold down the actual DVD drive. You'll know it's in right when it's flush. The power supply slides in from the inside, and there's 4 screws holding that. Since I'm using the laptop hard drive, I've already installed them right here because they're so small. I only use 1 screw just to lock those in place because they're not going to move anywhere. But you really don't want your hard drive to be moving anywhere. These are the wires that you're going to use to connect to your motherboard. Right now they have words on them, which is perfect for somebody who doesn't really know anything. You've got power LED, plus and minus, HDD, which is hard drive LED, reset switch and power switch, and audio. And this right here is just extra USBs that you might have connected to the actual case. Like this one has a USB port. Sometimes you could add extra stuff like a media card reader. You can add that too, and you have a wire that you can connect to it too. Now, first thing that I like to do is, once I take out the motherboard, there's a case that goes with it. Well, not the case. There's the bracket that holds everything in place. And to do a dry run of it, I'm knowing that it's going in like this. So I line this up, which is going to go just like that. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I'm using gloves because you're supposed to not have any electrostatic electricity to come from your body to touch any component on this motherboard, or it will fry it completely. So for low budget, I'm using just rubber gloves because no static can come through this, no electric static can come through these rubber gloves. So this plate is going here, locks into place. I'm knowing my motherboard is going to go into here, but before I even do that, there's areas on the motherboard that lines up with your motherboard, and it pushes it up as if it's a standoff. Some cases are totally different. They don't have that. Some of them you can buy standoff screws to make it raise up from the actual case, because the case is not supposed, the motherboard is not supposed to touch the actual case. But anyway, what I like to do is put my processor on and my RAM on before I put it into this case. Now it automatically comes with a cover. All you do is lift that up. Take this off. You need to hold on to that in case you ever have to send this motherboard back for any type of repairs. They're not going to accept it unless you keep this. This is the processor. As I said, I'm only using Intel today. I'm not really a big fan of AMD. There's a little diamond, if you can see, right in this bottom corner. That lets you know where this is supposed to be. I'm being careful about touching anything here. And it goes into the bottom left corner. It closes down, and you got a little tension here, so you have to hold the motherboard, slide it back underneath there like it was. That's braced in. Some processors automatically have thermal paste on them. I still purchase thermal paste anyway, and I don't have the best thermal paste, but just the fact that I'm using it is good enough. I forgot to tell you about that, but you're going to need this, because you need this to put onto here, onto the processor, so that when you put your fan on, it's going to dissipate the heat from the processor the right way, so that your fan is going to cool it off without it coming off, and then it's a big problem. But anyway, this fan has already have some thermal paste on there. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of this. Before I even do anything, I want to line it up so that I know where my wire is going to go. And right here is the first slot, and it says, you have to read these motherboards. It tells you everything on there, so they're not that bad. It's All you have to do is just look and read it. It says CPU fan. And this is just right for me to put it right here. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to put thermal paste here. This must be the last of this paste. And I'm just trying to spread it out a little bit. Doesn't have to be super perfect. The main goal is when you connect the fan to this processor is just to dissipate the heat the right way, evenly between the processor and the fan. Now this particular fan, there's holes that line up. All you have to do is, as if you're how you do tighten down or remove the lug nuts on a tire, you crisscross. With this one, I just press down a little bit, and there's arrows on there. It tells me to go to the left. There's a click. Press down. You hear that click? Turn it a little bit. Press down. There's a click. Turn it. Press down. There's a click. Turn it. Now when you get done, it should move. If it does, make sure everything is pressed down. If you do it right, not only will that not move, but underneath you will see the pins pop through. This one is probably the only one that didn't pop through, so that means I didn't apply enough pressure. Okay. All the rest of them are good. Let's take a look. Okay. From the looks of it, all of these have popped through. Excuse me. I've been working today and I used this one chemical. It was real dusty and I'm allergic to dust. Anyway, they're all popped through, so that lets me know this is good to go. 4 pins, 4 pins. Line it up, press down. That's good to go. Now, you want to make sure that none of these wires touch anything. I think I'm going to take this off. I think I just moved the fan just that quick. You don't want this to hit this blade. So I'm going to do that. Now, I think I'm going to check this because I'm not too sure about this. Okay, perfect. Now I've already pulled out the rams. This stick of ram, it only fits in one way. You line it up with the slot. Just so happened that this slot, let's see, the line is there. So that means if it was this way, it's wrong. You just turn it around. Everything is, when you were kids and we had to play with the square, circle, and the triangle pegboard, everything on this motherboard is the exact same way. If it doesn't fit, either turn it around. If it doesn't fit after that, don't force it. That means it doesn't belong there at all. Okay. Since I'm only using 1 gig, this is a 4 gig RAM stick of DDR3. This board can handle 16, but this is just a computer that I'm going to use just to test different things on. And once I line it up, I'm going to press down on it until I hear the clicks. The clicks just grab the actual stick of RAM. Done deal. Now it's time to install it into the case. I know it's a tough angle for you guys to see it the way this camera is, but all I'm basically doing is lining this motherboard up so that it comes through this little metal bracket that I showed you guys earlier to make sure everything is lined up. Once you do that, you can look onto the actual, between the motherboard and the case, and there's holes that you can see where your screws are supposed to go. This one has 2 at the top, 2 here, 1 here and 1 there, along with, well, the way this case is set up, I've got extra holes here that doesn't match up. But once you get enough screws in there between that one, this one, that one, and this one, and that one, it's pretty much going to keep it in place anyway, so it's not going to move. So we're going to screw this thing down. Same principle, you crisscross your screws. I'm going to use 1 here. And don't over tighten your screws. Just get it snug, just till you get everything into place. Then you can really tighten them down. Not too hard, but the main concept is you just don't want the motherboard to move. I'm going to cut this part because this is wasting time, but I'll be back. Okay, now I have all the screws in place. I want to start connecting devices. This is the actual power to the motherboard. There's a clip on here that has a little lip, so that lets you know that when you connect it, that's supposed to connect to the lip. You can see this when you're actually dealing with the motherboard. Just press down on it. It'll lock in place. Now, this particular motherboard doesn't have the old Molex connections, and Molex are these old connectors right here. These are called Molex. They're pretty old, but they still work. You have fans and other devices that you can use that still use this technology. But as far as your DVD player and your hard drives, they should use SATA, which this is a solid state. When I connect this hard drive, I'm going to have power connecting here. Now there's a groove there on the outside, so that means you got to stick to the same principle. It's going to connect like that, and then you need information, which is going to be, it's going to connect, the groove is out here, so it will connect like this, and then this will connect to the actual motherboard. Now there's grooves out here that says SATA. This particular board has 6.0 slots and 3.0 slots. 6.0 is probably going to be your fastest data transfer rate. 3.0 is your normal. I'm not using this hard drive, but I just want to let you know that when you do connect your hard drive, that's the way it's going to be. When you do connect your DVD, it's going to be the same way. Now this is the older hard drive. These can still work. The only difference is these have pins on them. So with this old school technology, you would use the ribbon that you would connect to the motherboard. But a lot of these new motherboards doesn't have that technology, so that means you're going to have to buy an adapter. And the adapter is called, I can't think of the name of the adapter. But anyway, you just tell them that you need an adapter to take an old hard drive and make it into SATA. And there's a device that slips right onto here, and it makes it look like this. And then you just connect your adapters. It will make this look like this. And it's just an adapter. It's probably about $8, $10. It's not expensive. But anyway, going back to these wires that I showed you guys earlier. Power reset, HDD, LED. Usually that is, let's see if I can zoom in. Maybe I can zoom in. Yeah, fellas, I won't be able to zoom in. On this diagram, this is what it's going to look like. If I can get a good clean shot of it. I believe it's right here. Right there. This is what it's going to look like that I got to connect to. There are slots on here for the power LED switch, the speaker, and so forth. The HDD, LED. This is just what it's going to look like that I've got it connected to. So you guys, you won't be able to see this, but this is what I got it connected to. Only because this camera, I can't get the right angle for you guys to really show you what it looks like. Okay, fellas, I got most of the wires connected. Now for this particular build, like I said, I had to go back to this configuration because on this particular motherboard, they didn't actually label where the HDD lead and the power switch and the power LED went. So when you look at this configuration, it tells you where they go. And so for this one, I had to put the pins. Now, this is the key. When you're dealing with these type of plugs, there's a little section right here that says USB. Keep all of the words facing up, and you should be good. Because the words on this USB means that when I plug it in, the words USB should be facing up and not towards the bottom of the board. But anyway, I had to connect the power LED, the plus and the minus, and it says 2 and 4, and then the power switch is here, and it said 6 and 8. And so on the 10th pin, which was the top one, there's nothing. And then over here it says HDD LED 1 and 3, and 5 and 7 for the other one, which is the reset switch. And then the top one, it said reserve, meaning nothing. So when you do your motherboard, some will clearly say that, some won't. Now here where it says the speaker, the good thing is on this motherboard it does say audio. It doesn't spell it all the way out, it just says JAUD. Common sense means audio. And like I said, as long as the words are facing up, when you connect it, it's going to be perfect every time. So I do have a USB that I will connect. Some elaborate cases have two, because you might have lower USBs and upper USBs. And like I said, if you had the media card reader, this particular motherboard can handle all of that. But this is an old PC case, so it doesn't need all that. So I'm going to connect it. It says USB. That's connected. So that's that. Audio is connected. USB is connected. Power, reset, HDD, LED, all that's connected. So that leaves the hard drives and the DVD drives left. So this is another main power switch, which on this one takes 8 pins, and I'm wondering if nope. So that means I'm gonna have to configure these two together. No, I'm not. Okay, not going to force that one. That goes there. This particular motherboard, some motherboards have 6 pins, some have the traditional 4. This one has 8. Oh well. I'm not going to force it, because even if I grab this one has another 4, so that would overstep its boundary, so we can't use that at all. It's a good thing to have fans. The more fans, the merrier. This particular power supply has a fan, and I have the fan for the CPU. You can add additional fans, but for this particular desktop, it's pretty cheesy, so I don't have the right fan. I would need a smaller fan. This is what they call 120 millimeter. But anyway, here's the key when you're dealing with these fans. Whichever way you see the blades, that's which way the air comes from the back. Now you got to remember, to keep good airflow into a PC, you want to have air coming from the front, going this way, and you want to have the fan facing not this way, but that way, to blow the air out. Because remember, When you can see the fan, that's which way the air is coming towards you. When you can't see the blades, that's which way it's going in that direction. So with this build, if I had the right fan, I would have put it here facing that way. That way the air could go out of the case. But like I said, this is a slot for probably an 80 millimeter or a smaller one that I don't have. So scrap that. And let's connect these hard drives. Now I've got two in here because I'm not even quite sure which one works or not. So I'm going to connect both of them just to be safe. And this is the information part. Okay, that's one. With these new motherboards, they usually put the 3.0 real tight on the board, and the 6.0 might be facing up, but it just depends. They switch them up, depends. This one, the 6.0 are facing up, and the 3.0s are facing down. Who cares? Just as long as they're connected, that's the key. Now, I need power. So in order to get power to the DVD, you have to connect this because this is connected to the power supply. Okay, that's that. This is going to be extra, so I'll just move that to the side. This one I'm going to connect. Like I said, I have two hard drives, but I'm just going to connect one to see if one works. If it doesn't, then I'll swap it over to the other one. That's no big deal. Normally, a normal person would just put in one hard drive because they know it works. But remember, this is just a scrap computer. I'm just going to be putting different stuff on there, so I'm not really too concerned which hard drive works. Okay, now, like I said before, these are extra. You can deal with them if you have different fans, different connections that you want to add, different stuff for another hard drive, so forth. But for disk management, for wire management purposes, I'm not going to zip tie these things. Just going to line them up and make them look a little bit, dress them up a little bit. And use this wire wrap just to keep everything away from touching something that I don't want it to touch. Okay, now you go over your checklist. You got power coming into your main board, which is the big switch. You got your fan connected. You have your power supply connected. You have power and information coming from your DVD drive, power and information coming from your hard drive. you know you've pretty much connected all your wires as far as power, LED, and so forth. And once you do that, now it's just a matter of turning it on and making sure. To do this, I usually leave the case off. Well, as far as the cover, I usually leave that off because if I have to go back into it, I don't need to go through putting that back on. So give me a second, let me check this out, and I'll be back. Okay, we ran into a snag. Remember earlier when I was talking about the connectors, and I was saying that this one has an 8-pin connector, and I tried to do it with this 6-pin. Didn't work, fellas. So in this case, what you want to do is whatever motherboard that you plan to purchase, read the specs on it, and it will tell you which power supply to use. And for this particular one, it takes an 8-pin connector. So I had to go out and purchase another power supply with 8 pins. Thanks to not reading the specs. To save you guys time and aggravation, don't do that. Just read the specs and it will tell you. That was an oversight on my part. My bad. The power supply comes out. And the new one goes right in. Keep the fan facing down. The new motherboards have it where the power supply goes into the bottom and the fan faces up. But like I said, this is an older PC, an older case. So, same principles still apply. What happened was, by that not being an 8-pin power supply, it didn't have enough power to power on this motherboard. I tried to rig it, but that doesn't work. So I had to break down and go get another power supply. It only cost 40 bucks. But I had to part with this one that I'd had for quite some time. I really liked it only because it had a blue LED fan, which was pretty cool. But it doesn't work for this one. Now this power supply has 4 screws. I'm only going to connect 3. I'll connect the other one later. Whoops, my bad. I'll connect the other one later. Now, even though we got a lot of wiring, the same principle still applies. Connect this one to the motherboard. Right where you see the lip, connect that to the lip. Okay. Here's the 8-pin connector. Now this one has 2 of them, So that means this one is by itself, so I would think that this one would be onto the motherboard, and this one being like this, I would think that this one would be for high-powered graphic cards. Because most of the time people bridge the two together. So we're going to run with this into here. Fits like a glove. And remember, SATA power. So many wires. Goodness gracious. Okay, fellas. SATA power here. We'll use the other SATA here. Okay. Now all this extra wiring, I'm going to dress up and tie up just to get it out of the way, because you can always use a zip tie later. But the main thing is making sure that everything works before I start tying everything down. Okay. Okay, let me check this and see if it works, and I'll be back. Okay, fellas, success.